Hello, hello, gorgeous people, women in this case, because again, this is going to be directed at women. Oh, hello, hello. So, I spoke yesterday. I announced that I'm going to have this unplanned stream to speak about motherhood and career. And obviously this is a lot of my story because I'm maintaining this motherhood and developing my own business, and this was also a huge fear for me before giving birth and before getting pregnant. And to be honest with you, for a long time, for most of my life, I never thought I would necessarily choose motherhood, just because my purpose and service is so important to me, and I was super afraid that it's gonna take me away from motherhood, will take me away from my purpose. And it seems that I've been attracting a lot of women in my life that have this similar fear. And specifically today, I think I'm going to talk to those who don't have children yet and who have that fear. And of course, whatever I'm sharing with you is just an additional perspective to consider, because my intention today is to speak of things that maybe you haven't thought about. And as I like to do it from an energetic perspective, from spiritual perspective, from kind of like a higher perspective, from ancestral perspective, some things that we don't always think, because we think of, we tend to think linearly. Obviously, that's kind of how mind works. And I'm here to break those patterns a little bit for you. And it's also coming from my own experience, because my life started to thrive, my purpose started to thrive once I became pregnant. And my first big workshop that I offered was when I was 9 months pregnant and 2 weeks before giving birth to my child. So I actually came into my purpose, and it unlocked more things in me as I was preparing to become a mother. So this is something that I don't think we often think about. So let's go. And sure, share your questions, any kind of your your experiences. I welcome it here. This is not a lecture. This is more of like a friendly chat and something that we can maybe benefit from. And I am talking from a perspective that my path is not the right path. Like, there's no one path, and I do believe that one of the greatest traps that mothers can experience is this perfectionism. Like, we want to be perfect, we want to have things done in a polished way, and like that's far away from reality, and we shouldn't have those high standards for ourselves. So I certainly have some strong perspectives and views to how my motherhood and how raising of my child should be done, but don't think that, I imply that this is how you're supposed to do it as well. So there's no solution for all. We know that there's never, we cannot find anything like that, but there are some tendencies, there are some ways that can be, if we do them, things will be easier, and some things, if we do, things will be harder. And sometimes when we kind of get stuck on that linear thinking, where we only think that if I become a mother, I will have less time to focus on my career, so it's going to take away my career, right? That's kind of usually the pattern that we have. And that's the linear thinking that I'm talking about. And so here I'm to illuminate a little bit more of how this may look. Because especially when it comes to a woman's path, it's not that linear. And our energetics play a huge role. our energetics expand when we bring in a new child, when we bring in new life. We sort of get blessed and we receive some gifts that were not available to us or were dormant in us when we give birth. And so this is not something you can know in advance. But there are some things that I'll at the end will speak about, of how you may kind of see whether motherhood is kind of important for you, where you're going to gain a lot of power through it. So just on a kind of like everyday basis, we can see women oftentimes reflect on their motherhood experience and kind of confirm that, yes, I became more grounded, I became more connected to myself, to kind of this material life. I am more confident, I am more assertive, because I need to be, like, I need to exercise that assertiveness, because I have like a being that depends on me. But that quality that we start developing with the child and by mothering the child doesn't only stay there, right? That quality is transferable to all of the other areas of our life. So, and especially for us to be successful in our career, especially if we're building our business or we're kind of like independent in our work, we need that assertiveness, we need that confidence. It's like the most important thing, probably one of the most important things that we can have in order to have a successful business, a successful career, right? Even if you work for somebody, like, you want to have the sense of self-worth so that you can go and ask for a raise, because that's kind of due, right? So you become more resourceful. When you become a mother, you start gaining those qualities just because you're trained into it. Like, you have to find ways out, you know, you don't have enough sleep, for example, at the beginning, and then you kind of like, you expand to degrees that you didn't think were possible. You become way more powerful than you thought were possible. And so this is something that, you know, naturally you start gaining when you have a child. You don't have to only like receive that through having a child. Yes, if you're gonna sign up for a really big project and some big business, you also grow that resourcefulness in it, but there's no more responsibility than you can have for a child. And so with that responsibilities come power. Power and resources always flow where they are needed. If you don't need the resource, it's not going to come to you. So that's why even like in coaching, we always like to stretch ourselves. We want to commit to something that's bigger than what we used to, because once we commit, resources will come, but they will not come when we're just like planning for it. And that's the trick, is to really risk it, to really take, you know, a leap of faith and believe in yourself. So there's another perspective that I want to give you as in a context of the planet, where we are on a human consciousness, where we are as far as evolution, and what we need. And I think we all see that a lot of systems are changing, and a lot of it has been predicted. I mean, like, if you're into astrology, you know those things are all kind of pre-planned, and more changes are to happen. And with that, we're sort of like moving into a new level of living. And in that new level of living, obviously parenthood is really important, and the type of parenthood, right? More conscious, more gentle, more kind of aware, where you're like, okay, like, this is a being, it's not a little child that knows nothing, it's actually a being that came with its own history, with its own wisdom, and I'm here to support this being and protect it, but also to allow it to explore the life, to find itself in this, herself or himself in this life. And it's really important. So to give that kind of spaciousness, and to start coming out of the reward punishment paradigm, because the reward punishment paradigm is what we are trying to heal, all of us, on a collective level, on a human level, we run into those problems, and we go to therapy because we don't feel we are worthy, because we were built in a system where you're only worthy according to your performance, for example, right? So obviously we don't want to start transferring the same things to our children. And the planet that is changing is supporting the parents and the families that are doing it in this more kind of holistic way, in the way where it is supportive of a child, because the planet wants the child to experience this new type of life, so then they can start transferring more of that into the future generations. Also, when it comes to a mother being on purpose, a mother being in her element, a mother who is not only just a mother, but also, she's doing a lot of things and she's socially active. Again, this is an example that a child wants to, especially a young daughter. We have a lot of daughters coming into earth right now because the feminine is rising. We need to balance the masculine and the feminine, and we're kind of being out of balance. So the feminine is rising, the empowered feminine. And so young daughters need to see examples of women, of their mothers who are able to do all of that, who are able to maintain a great household, great relationships, and also their careers, etc. So the planet is supporting those of us who are on this path because it's to the planet's benefit. I hope this makes sense. And so think of that. Think of not what motherhood is going to take away from you, but what motherhood is actually going to give you. And that's what we don't think. We only think that a child is going to come in and my life is going to get disrupted, but we don't think what the child is going to bring with them. And this is my next point. So the child, like all of us have our kind of, we have an energy, right? We have a history that is beyond one life. And we have positive, negative karma that we've accumulated. So the child, when it comes into your life, you get blessed by your ancestral lineage. The way you get blessed by your ancestral lineage is this. So imagine a tree. The roots start to pump more energy through this the trunk when there is something growing, right? Like in spring, for the leaves to grow, the roots starting to work really hard, and you as a trunk, imagine you as a trunk, you are receiving that energy through you so you can give it to your child. So more resources are pumped to you and through you to your child. You are given more resources. Oftentimes we can see that when a child comes to a family's life, they have something beneficial happening, either expansion of their living conditions, or like something that it's not the same. It's not just two parents anymore. There is more, and with that child, the sort of like energetic inheritance that comes in. Your ancestral lineage's purpose is to survive. So your lineage as a consciousness on its own, always supporting more life. And if the life is coming through you, it's going to be supporting you because you're feeding that life. Because you are helping the lineage as a consciousness on its own to survive, right? To survive and to thrive, to continue basically, to continue life. So actually we sometimes can see if it's sort of like if it's on, your lineage has goals for you. That's why it gave you this body. And it has sort of a purpose for you too. And there is some sort of something you need to return back. And sometimes the lineage expects from you to continue the lineage. So you may actually start experiencing more challenges and difficulties if you do not continue. And we can see that when a woman finally brings a child into the world, or maybe two, depending on what the contracts, those higher contracts were, she actually starts reaping a lot of rewards, and a lot of fruits of her labor start coming in. And before then, her career may be even stagnated because her lineage is preventing her from receiving all of that, because her lineage wants her to complete the task that they want her to complete. And then on her own, on her soul level, she also has a task of, say, expressing herself in a particular way, serving herself outside of motherhood. Do you see the point? Is that sometimes not having children is actually preventing the abundance and all other beautiful vital things coming to your life, if it's something that's kind of pre-planned for you, if it's something that is part of your purpose. What else can I say? So we have a child who is coming, and with that bringing the energetics, right? There is an energy of a child that sometimes can play as a key to your own dormant talents. Energetically, you're like this, and then the child comes in and they just kind of like perfectly open your dormant talents. They activate with their energy and with their soul frequency, they activate your talents that may not even be related to motherhood. And then you're like, whoa, like you are more awakened to the power of who you are, to the talents that were dormant before then. So your child can play a role of a key, of an activator of your talents. That's another thing that we don't look at. And it's definitely something that happened to me. Because I was quite lost as far as like, what do I do, etc. And it is oftentimes that for some of the women who are afraid of having children because their career may be destroyed, we also have to think that maybe the career as it was before and wasn't fully the right one for them. And with motherhood, we'll learn how to, we start reevaluating things. We really get to connect to what's important in life. And maybe we understand that, oh, I was holding on to something, but I actually don't like doing it. Or maybe because now our inner self-worth is growing. We're like, wait, like, no, like they were treating me not well, and I actually have these talents, because now maybe your talents are being activated and you're remembering of something else you wanted to do or how you want to express yourself, and you're like, oh yeah, so you start redirecting your life a little bit. It is possible, and very often women start to kind of say no to some things that like don't serve them, that they don't bring the benefit. Maybe they were in it because of survival, but not because of this kind of thriving mode. And that's beautiful too. So yes, maybe your career will not stay as it is, but it doesn't mean it's going to get completely destroyed. No, it may transform into something more beautiful and more powerful and more fulfilling. I'm looking at my notes to see that, making sure that I don't forget anything, because also with your child, with the childbirth, you get way more mature. Not all of us, of course, and I never rush that. I would say it's better to wait longer than less, but it always happens when it's needed. But you definitely want to be quite mature even before becoming pregnant and giving birth, and you want to study, resources for conscious parenting, etc., I think. But at the same time, there is a level of maturity that will not come to you until you go through the process of childbirth. And you become more grounded, you become more rooted, you grow roots deeper. And some stuff just kind of comes off you, it's no longer important. It's kind of like some sort of childhood or girly insecurities, you become a woman, a mother, and some things just no longer bother you because they are not as important on a scheme of life and bringing your life. That's kind of the best how I can explain it. So I spoke about So there's one more thing. So with the feminine energy, and a lot of us, because the feminine energy is rising, and it's important to bring the empowered feminine so that we can also heal the masculine, because right now we have too much of one, which is too much of masculine. And when there is too much of one thing, it's never a healthy thing, and the masculine is unhealthy. So by raising the feminine and empowering the feminine, then the masculine can also heal and harmonize. So what happens is that if a woman is too much in her masculine, like she's running, like she's all goal-oriented, achievement-oriented, then when she becomes a mother or she becomes pregnant, she starts to rise more of that feminine energy in her. And like I said earlier, feminine energy is not linear. A lot of subtle things happening. It's more about the energy. And so, for example, you would be like, I'm going to, in the masculine way, you think, I'll do this work, that work will pay off this way. But in the feminine way, you may be taking care of your children and of your household, but abundance will be coming from somewhere else as a blessing for what you give. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially if you don't close your channels to receive. Sometimes women can be kind of, difficult at receiving. But if you don't close your channels to receive, and you don't have your mind focused on that it can be received only through one particular way, then you may start receiving abundance and some sort of, some blessings from other ways. Sometimes it could be seen as a raise, your partner is getting a raise, or, they like business expands. Sometimes it's your own awakening of your talents. But you see what I'm saying is that it's not always that linear. Sometimes caring for children helps you to activate the feminine energy, and feminine energy, when it's like that Empress energy, of which I, by the way, spoke. I posted one post. You can see my latest post about the feminine energy. It's by default very abundant. Feminine energy is kind of like that sort of delicious, nurturing, fertile, and it just like brings life, and it brings more goodness everywhere it goes. So if you cultivate that energy by being with your children, then you just cultivate that in your life in general. It may come in from some other way, from somewhere else. So I spoke about your child activating your dormant codes, that the child brings their energy and brings their blessings, and they may bring extra resources into your life just energetically, because that's their karma, like if they have a good karma. I spoke about your ancestral line and consciousness supporting you, because you are now the vessel to give to the, to the extension of the lineage. And the last thing that I can say, which I already said, but I'll just kind of bring it up again, is that instead of thinking what it's going to take away from you, think of what it's going to give you. Because it's just even like basic programming. When we set ourselves for failure, we set ourselves for victory, right? And being excited, because a lot of things cannot be known until you get there. But you can know that there will be some good things, right? You can just like program it into yourself. You don't know what exactly it may be. And you also definitely kind of learning how to be very flexible. When you become a mother, you have to be very flexible, and flexibility is a very important transferable skill that we need right now in this ever-changing times. We definitely need it. So it's like, okay, like it's not working this way, let me try it this way. Especially if you're a business owner, like that's really important, but not only, right? So now let me tell you about something, like how you can see some of the tricks, how you can see for yourself whether motherhood is an important part of your path, and that is something that you will benefit from, and maybe it's kind of like on your soul path. So I'll kind of give you some information based on Destiny Matrix. And Destiny Matrix is one of the systems that I use if I do readings. And it's kind of like numerology and not only based. So first of all, if you're born on the 3rd of a month or in March, then I would say yes, it's definitely something that you want to discover more of: motherhood, femininity, this Empress energy of which I was talking about. And then there are some other things that you will need to build your chart, and I'm going to give you a link. I will leave a link in my bio, and it's just a kind of a separate link that you have. It's not through me, but to build the chart and look whether in that chart that you're going to see, you're going to have a lot of numbers like 3 or 19. Because once you see the numbers, some of them of course are more, placements of those numbers are more important than some other placements. Like you have a money area, you have your comfort zone. Look at the center of that matrix and see what number is in there. If there is a 3, it's like you're definitely comfortable with your femininity. But there are some other things that you may see, like at the bottom or on the right side, there is a lot of 3s. Or if there's a 19, that is a sign that you want to discover more of this experience of having children, and maybe even a lot of children will be important for you. And then scroll down on that page, and at the end you will also see there will be more numbers, and just kind of look through it. If you see a lot of 3s and 19s, then I would say, general rule of thumb would be that you will benefit from motherhood and discovering your feminine energy, especially if you have a lot of 3s, because 3 is an archetype of Empress. And I was speaking of the Empress archetype. I posted the first post yesterday or the day before, and there is a part 2 coming up. And it's important, if you find a lot of 3s in your chart, then definitely look at that guide. And of course, I don't do the charts nowadays. I do them in a context of a bigger kind of a coaching container. But if you need some help with sort of like understanding, I may be able to do a chart for you as an exception. So shoot me a message, and I can kind of translate to you the numbers and the things that you're seeing. And of course, if you want to go deeper into planning your motherhood, planning your career, and balancing those two things, or maybe you're already in it but you want to come into more harmonious place in your life, where you can access this level of thriving in all of it, which is possible for all of us, then definitely shoot me a message. I offer private mentorship and support specifically for women in this area. And so yeah, that's my message to you. Look in my bio. After I post this, I'll leave the link to the website where you can build your chart, and you will only need your birth date and year, and you will see a big matrix with a lot of numbers in it. Just look for 3s and 19s. Okay, well, let me know how this landed to you. Let me know if you're already a mother, and what have you experienced after giving birth that you could never predict, and maybe how more empowered you became after giving birth, and any other sort of reflections and inspirations that you can share with other women who don't have children yet but kind of want to and a little bit afraid. I'm looking forward to hearing back from you, and until the next time, much love. Bye bye.